This one's going to be a little different. Good evening. My name is Mike Lopato, and I'm a white male. I was raised by a religious Republican family in a suburb in the capital of the Rust Belt, Pittsburgh. And in the past year, I've been really pissed off. It sounds like I voted for Trump, doesn't it? But I didn't. And that's exactly the problem with our system. Clinton gets the urban black vote, Trump gets the rural white vote. As they trade one block for another until they have enough to win, it's almost as if they expect us not to think. When the blocks align with ideas, people can move between them. We have a conversation. When the blocks align with demographics, people are stuck in place, and we have a conflict. Rapists, thieves, deplorables, racists, on both sides, it's time to stop. When we associate a group of people with something we hate, we start to hate that group. But when we think this way, we forget that 29 and not 0% of Latinos voted for Trump. If nothing else, this proves that we have our own minds, as we were told by our friends, family, and colleagues, you're either with us or you're against us. Imagine for a moment the worst case scenario. Imagine for a moment Trump takes office on January 20th. Imagine that protests reignite, this time with vigor. Imagine that Republicans trying to get to New York attack a group of protesters on the George Washington Bridge. A few people on each side are killed, and it escalates from there because you can't just watch your friend die and be okay with it. Imagine that we have riots in the city, personal attacks in the suburbs, and imagine that this spreads across the country to Chicago, St. Louis, Portland, Oakland. Imagine for a moment that we end up in a civil war. The struggle I've been facing over the past year is not one against my group's opponents, but one against my own groups. I'm not for them, so I must be against them. My struggle is the struggle of political homelessness. My struggle is that if the culture wars became civil wars, I wouldn't know which side to defend. Many people that I like and work with are on the left, my friends, my employer, my professors. Many people that I love are on the right. And I don't want either side to win in this zero-sum world because I don't want either side to lose. My high school is a strange mix, combination of the upper class and the lower middle class. And though my family is in the 50%, we're by no means in the 1% or even the 10%. I've watched the culture wars not from the internet, not on television, but from the kitchen table. And I've lived in a community of conflict, but fortunately, a community of discussion. And I'm glad it did, because it taught me to think for myself. I don't guarantee anyone that I'll always stand with them in politics. Regardless of what side you're on, sometimes I'll march with you, sometimes I'll march against you. On immigration, I march to the left. On abortion, I march to the right. On drug policy, I march to the left. On climate change, I march to the right. On police reform, I march to the left. And on gun control, I march to the right. After all, what is stop and frisk if not a really extreme and unfairly enforced form of gun control? And by God, I will straddle the middle as long as I'm able, because I believe it's the only way we'll ultimately pull ourselves out of this crisis.
Yeah.
Thank you.